All right, procedural issues from the defendants. We can start with you, Attorney Seligson.
Thank you, Your Honor. As we're anticipating the status of this case, it's important to inform the court that from Ms. Reed's perspective, we have affirmative claims that we intend to bring on her behalf. Those claims stem from the same facts that are at issue in this case. Those claims, Your Honor, are against parties that are not in the litigation at this point, including the Massachusetts State Police, Lieutenant Brian Tully in his personal capacity, Sergeant Yuri Buchanan in his personal capacity, Michael Proctor. Those claims would be in the nature of violations of Karen Reed's civil rights, and conspiracy. The claims against the Massachusetts State Police would be negligent training, supervision, and retention of Massachusetts State Police troopers. We also intend, Your Honor, to bring claims, affirmative claims, against Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, Matthew McCabe, Jennifer McCabe, and Brian Higgins, who were the occupants of 34 Fairview Road in Canton on the night in question. Those claims will be in the nature of civil conspiracy, violation of Karen Reed's civil rights, and then a claim against the town of Canton through its police department for negligent failure to secure the garage in the Sally Port. We asking the court's permission to bring those claims in this case because they do arise out of the same nucleus of operative facts. In order for us to fairly defend Ms. Reed in this case, those claims, those parties need to be asserted in this case. What we'd like to ask the court's indulgence for is we have a proposal of how to bring those claims in, given the voluminous nature of this case. That would be 10 additional parties coming in. To do that, we would be alleging that the individuals in the House diverted attention away from themselves towards Ms. Reed, that law enforcement then acting on that diverted attention away from her, because the people in the House were either police or police adjacent who were socially and personally connected. Then they collectively conspired to ensure that what happened in the House was not explored and investigated. And instead, Ms. Reed was wrongfully targeted, maliciously prosecuted, made to face 2 criminal trials for the death of John O'Keefe, and is now facing allegations of wrongful death, all stemming from the same claims. How do we synthesize the process to bring these claims and parties in? What we're asking the court to consider is for us, at the time we file her answer to the complaint, we've got some claims that we're asking to be dismissed. Regardless of how the court decides those, we still have to file an answer on her behalf. Our suggestion would be to file those claims against those parties in the same pleading. Serve all of those new parties with that complaint. Allow them 30 days, not the normal 20 days, to respond so the court can have one hearing on whether some may bring dispositive motions, some may file general answers, so that we can then decide how and who is in the case and proceed forward. So I bring that to the court's attention. And I'm happy to brief it so that Mr. Diller can have an opportunity.
Well, at a minimum, you're going to do that. I'm envisioning what the plaintiffs are going to say to this rather extraordinary process, but go ahead.
But that would be, otherwise it's going to be a very unwieldy, delay-inducing process, and we're not looking to do that. This accounts for trying to conserve judicial resources, trying to have a streamlined approach, at the same time making sure that all the claims and all the parties are in this case. The alternative would be for us to file a separate action on Ms. Reed's behalf, alleging these claims, and then move to consolidate immediately with this case, which Your Honor has broad discretion to allow. The point being, the claims should be in this case. They all arrive out of the same facts. They're not separate. And that's essentially what we'd like to do. We'd like to brief that, Your Honor, and have the plaintiffs respond and then proceed from there.
Okay. All right, let's hear it then from the Waterfall.
Yes, Your Honor. We are in the process of completing written discovery propounded to us from the plaintiff for order of extension until next month. We anticipate that will be completed then. We as well.
When you say an extension, this is an agreed-to extension?
Agreed.
Because the tracking order is what it is. We'll get to that in a little
Yes,
bit.
it's been agreed to, Your Honor.
Okay.
And then, Your Honor, we're looking at deposition.
All right, the attorney for the bar speaking there. We're hitting the pause button on this hearing because I got to talk about this with Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson, who's here in studio. We got to break down what we were just hearing because this is our first time really publicly hearing about what's happening. It's a lot, and this could really slow things down and turn this trial into what we already saw in the other trial. So 10 additional parties that Karen Reed wants to bring into this case. She's the defendant, but she's got some counter. Let's talk about those parties because some were named, some were not.
So now that was the mic drop moment of the day because now we know exactly what this countersuit could entail, right? You have Karen Reed talking about 10 additional people and she's doubling down with her defense team. A lot of new faces there. Talking about corruption and cover-up. They want to go after Massachusetts State Police, the lead investigators, including Michael Proctor, Brian Tully, and we also had Yuri Buchanan, town of Canton involved in all of this. Remember, they had to do an independent audit after her arrest. And then they're talking about civil conspiracy with the McCabe's, the Alberts, and Higgins.
And this would be really the first time legally, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Karen Reed would be able to go after them in a legal arena, not in a defending herself where they were not on trial, though it felt like it sometimes during her trial. But she hasn't filed anything against them up until this point. Am I right about that?
Right, and this is the first time that we're getting a window into how she plans to fight this civil suit by bringing those parties in, and they want to merge it into this case rather than filing a separate one.